With day 3 of the Combine in the books, we got to look at the defensive linemen and the linebackers. Let's take a look at whose stock rose and who fell on day 3 of the Combine. All right, gang, my name's Ryan. I'll be your pilot. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. If you've been here before, welcome back. I love having you here. Boys and girls, I go live every Monday at 8 o'clock for my live call-in show, and then Tuesday we come back with our Talkin' Jets panel, 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock with myself, O'Leary, and Green Bean. So make sure you check out both those for all your Jet-related questions. But let's jump into today's topic of the day, and that is the NFL Combine, Day 3. We got to see the quarterbacks, the tight ends, the receivers day 1. We got to take a look at the offensive linemen and the running backs day 2. Well, day 3 is reserved for the defensive side of the ball. We got to take a look at the defensive linemen, the DNs, the D tackles, and the linebackers. So there's a whole bunch of guys we could look at. We obviously need help at the edge rusher position. We obviously need help at the linebacker position. D tackle, probably a little less desirable for Jet fans after all the defensive tackles we've taken in the last 10 years, but it is a sneaky position of need, potentially, depending on what happens with Foley Fatukasi and Sheldon Rankins. Could swing quite a bit there. But let's jump into it. Let's take a look at what the big stories were for today. And this day was dominated by Georgia, like across the board. Like the best players at this the best players today at the Combine were all from Georgia. The entire day. Just on their defensive line. Jordan Davis, Devontae Wyatt, Trayvon Walker, and I'll give an honorable mention for Jermaine Johnson because he transferred from Georgia to go to Florida State. So he would have been on this line this year had he stayed. Insane. Or maybe he wouldn't have been because he transferred. But either way, 3 guys from Georgia, another guy that went to Georgia that transferred out, all phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. 40 times, broad jump. Jordan Davis running a 4.78 as a defensive tackle at like 300-something pounds is bananas. To put that in perspective, Jerry Rice ran a 4.71. 0.07. A 310-pound defensive tackle. And Jerry Rice, the greatest receiver of all time. I don't understand. Guys are just getting faster and faster. It's incredible. It honestly is incredible. As far as the linebackers for Georgia, Channing Tindall and Quay Walker both performed very well for their spots. 4.47 in the 40 for Tindall, and Walker got a 4.52. Linebacker Walker, not Trayvon Walker. And then you have Nakobe Dean, who did not participate in the Combine today because he's waiting for his pro day. And I think that was a tactical miscalculation based on how we saw Devin Lloyd perform, the linebacker out of Utah. He only ran a 4.66, and I think Dean would have beaten him. I think he would have been able to kind of eclipse Lloyd as that number 1 linebacker in this class. Now I think it's probably still in question, at least until the pro day. So across the board, Georgia stole the show. There's no wonder they were as good as they were this past year. Now, I touched on enough of the defensive tackles, because if you're taking a defensive tackle, I'm just not excited. I don't want to take a defensive tackle. I really don't. But let's talk about the edge rushers. Let's talk about edge rush, because this is very important. You got Aiden Hutchinson at the top of the draft, Kayvon Thibodeaux, and then like a ton of other edge rushers that could potentially be really good in the NFL. Well, this year we had 8 prospects on the edge side of the ball that ran a sub 4.6 40. And that does not count. Wait, does that count? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That does not count Jermaine Johnson. Does not include Jermaine Johnson, who ran a 4.58, tied with Kayvon Thibodeaux, because he tried out with the linebackers, which is a really odd thing for him to do. I'm not exactly sure why that was done that way. If they're trying to play him as an outside linebacker as opposed to like with his hand in the dirt, I don't really get it. Doesn't really make sense to me. So highlighting these guys, Aiden Hutchinson, 4.74, 9 foot, 9-inch broad jump, and a 36-inch vertical. The broad jump and the vert are both fine. The 40 time didn't break the top 10 for edge rushers. There were only 18 guys that ran it. So that's maybe a little disappointing, but his 10-yard split was still really good. He wound up having a 1.62, which is a really elite 10-yard split, because I mean, realistically, you're not really running 40 yards very often. As an edge rusher, you're really just going that 10-yard split. Kayvon Thibodeaux, on the other hand, ran a 4.58 40 and put up 27 reps on the bench press at 225 pounds. That is the same amount of reps that our GM Joe Douglas put up back in 98, 99. Kind of cool, right? Maybe he saw a little bit of himself in Kayvon Thibodeaux. They both have this roughly the same speed, too. I'm sure Douglas would have ran very similarly to Thibodeaux. Benefit of the doubt, my friend. So it's going to be interesting to see what happened, because Thibodeaux wound up doing the bench press. He did the 40, did interviews, and then was like, I'm done. Not going to do any more positional workouts, which is like definitely frustrating because you want to see him with all his peers in one isolated environment. But I think, I don't know, I guess there's no reason when you're considered a top 3 recruit, top 5 recruit, whatever it is, there is no real reason to overextend yourself. So do the stuff that's going to make you look good at the combine, and don't do things that maybe either you need more work on or might in some way make people think negatively about you. I don't want to say negatively, but maybe not positively. But he does plan to do linebacker and DN drills at Oregon's Pro Day. So it's not like we're not going to see him. It's just, a little weird. And I'm not going to lie. I'm a little concerned with Kayvon Thibodeaux. Before I get to that, let's talk splits real quick. We'll talk splits. 10-yard split. Kayvon Thibodeaux came out with the fastest of like the top 4-ish edge rushers, if you're kind of looking at it that way. 1.59. Hutch was 1.62. Trayvon Walker, 1.62. Ojabo, 1.64. So all guys with elite speed with that 10-yard split. Really good. Now, they all had really great RAS numbers. Aiden Hutchinson, 9.86. Kayvon Thibodeaux, 9.67. Trayvon Walker, 9.99. Damn near close to a full 10. And then 9.19 for David Ojabo out of Michigan. So what are these RAS scores, and why is it such a big deal for Jet fans or for people in general? Like, why should you care about this? Well, it's a relative athletic score, so it's supposed to give you an idea of how these guys rank when compared to their peers at their position. And Joe Douglas, from the appearance, or I shouldn't say from the appearance, Joe Douglas's selections over his 2 drafts have been very telling in terms of RAS score. In the first 3 rounds through both drafts, he has never drafted someone below an 8.68. That was Elijah Moore. That was the lowest top 3 round pick. Above that was a 9.15 was the lowest. I'll put the whole list up. So interesting. So you got to wonder, I mean, aside from, I guess, let me go over this list. I'm not counting Zach Wilson, because clearly quarterback is a different animal. Ashton Davis was injured at the combine, so he actually didn't have a RAS score, but generally speaking, everyone thinks he's pretty high athlete, freak athlete, so he probably would have tested real high anyway. So that's where that, 3rd round other pick kind of comes in. But it's an interesting thought process, because does this trend continue in this year's draft? At the very top, you could see guys like Sauce Gardner, any of the edge rushers, they're all going to hit that 9, probably, RAS mark. But is it going to happen with some of the other players? Because guys like Treylon Burks, guys that, have a ton of upside, looks like fits across the board. But Burks had like a 6 point something. So does Joe Douglas break the mold of his top 3 picks or top 3 rounds and go outside of the RAS number? I don't know. It's going to be interesting to find out. And now let me go back to like my thought process with the edge situation, because right now you're probably thinking there's a lock for 3 edges in the top 10 for sure. Hutchinson, Thibodeaux, no doubt. Trayvon Walker, running and performing the way he did today, absolutely jettisoned himself into the top 10. So it's going to be interesting to see where teams kind of go and how do they jockey for position for these different guys. I'm not going to lie, Kayvon Thibodeaux scares the living bejesus out of me. I want to like him so much. Like, the athlete, the athletic specimen is there. He's savvy. You listen to him talk about chess and like Listen to him describe the way he stacks pass rush moves.
This is life and chess is football, right? When you talk about doing your first move, your first move is going to set up your second move, right? Then you got to think your third move ahead, right? So when you talk about pass rush, I'm going to hit you with speed first. I always hit you with speed, and then that's going to set up my power moves, and then my power moves is going to set up my counter. So if you go watch the games, you know, if you watch UCLA, you see me with the flash dip. That came because I was hitting him with speed, and then I was hitting him with the long arm, right? So I wouldn't have been able to do the flash dip if I didn't hit him with the long arm, right? And then you watch, Washington State, right? If I wasn't hitting him with speed, I wouldn't able to hit him with the long arm, which then came the long arm counter, right? So just being able to kind of dictate and know, right? It's a heavyweight match, right? It's like a boxer. You've been giving them the jab. You want to come with a hook. You want to change it up. So just having that longevity and realizing that when the fourth quarter comes, you got to put it all together.
So you hear that and you think, wow, this guy knows everything he's talking about. This is exactly what you want from a prospect. But then he gives me like these weird shades of like Jamal Adams and like the diva me kind of guy. Like he's the main character in a video game and we're just all kind of privileged to watch him walk through life. And that's probably really like brash to say, but it's just like the way he interviews is just not good. And he even says like in another interview that he's been training his whole life. He talked to the Giants. He's prepared for the big city if he gets taken by one of the New York teams. He's been trained since sophomore year of high school in media. But it doesn't seem like that. The whole Alabama, like, education thing.
Listen, you're going to be a superstar in the NFL, but for guys that aren't, it means something that they're a Crimson Tide player.
Can I give you a perspective?
Yes.
If I gave you a fishing pole, would you know how to use it?
No. I don't fish.
You don't fish. School has never been important to me, or a job or a career has never been important until I was done playing football. How would I know how to go get a career or a job? I won't.
I think it's been one of my arguments for a long time that we don't have mandatory financial planning classes for every kid in college football, they should be in classes that teach them how to operate their finances. And
what world do I want to be a part of? If I go to Alabama, I'm going to win national championships. Literally. I said, but do I want to be a guy who's known to be a national championship winner, or do I want to be a guy who's known for being a part of the greatest organization in the world? But a brand like Nike, I mean, for me, it was like, what brand associations do I want to be tied to?
Sure.
You know what I mean? And for me, I already hate the stigmatism of football players being dumb jocks.
Totally.
So now, do you know what the stigmatism of Alabama education? It ain't the West Coast.
No.
You know what I mean? It ain't Harvard.
No, I
so
hear you.
For me, I have to look at it and say, I'm only going to be in college for 3 years. Like I said, if I would have went to Alabama, I probably would still be there, and we wouldn't be sitting here today. 2, I probably wouldn't have graduated yet. And 3, I don't know if my degree would mean anything. And there's no guarantee. I think Oregon might be the only place where you are guaranteed, and it's not, I wouldn't say it's a guarantee, but there is a 90% chance that if you want to, a Nike opportunity is there. And there's a guarantee that if you play football at Oregon, you can work in the corporate Nike world. That's a guarantee. And Phil Knight, I could call him and he'd say that today.
But does the talent outweigh it? Like when I look at everything that Thibodeaux kind of says and sort of does, like off the field. I'm talking off the field. Not saying on the field, but I'm just saying off the field. It just irks me. I don't know what it is. I can't get around it. And then I hear a guy like Jermaine Johnson, and I hear him talk and like just sort of the way he describes situations or his relationships with people.
You here at the Combine, Jermaine Johnson, the second from Florida State, and we were just talking about, before coming on here, just sort of a little bit of the outside noise. You do pay a little bit of attention to that. How much do you allow yourself to kind of get into that, and how does it maybe feel you?
I mean, especially at this point in my career, the Combine, you got to understand what the perception is on you outside of you, right? So just listening to that noise a little bit, but everything else, all the rat poison you want to tune out, but definitely what you're perceived as, especially from NFL personnel, is extremely important.
It's interesting because you're mild-mannered, but you have an edge, because we were talking just before about how the perception was that maybe you weren't playing against elite guys in the ACC. I think there are a ton of great guys in the ACC, but you came from Georgia. You balled out at Florida State once you got there, and then, as I was talking to you, you went to Mobile and went crazy. So tell me what that perception is, that chip on your shoulder that you have from the ACC, and then what were you thinking about when you got to Mobile?
I mean, you just know, a guy transfers from SEC to ACC because of his snap count. you think that he probably wants to go do something against quote-unquote lesser competition. I wanted to show that wasn't the case, and I wanted to show I could dominate the best of the best, and that's what I intend to do at the next level as well.
He feels so much more humble, and maybe he just has to be because he's not the number one high school recruit that was Kayvon Thibodeaux, who is now a projected top 5 pick. Like, I don't know. I would say I am really afraid of Thibodeaux. He could either be awesome, or we could wind up having another like diva situation on our hands that really, like, I don't know. There's so much more to this process. Pro days, a few more interviews, but this was a big one. And like, there's a lot of really good edge rushers. So if I'm feeling a little bit of the willies from the top of this edge class, maybe it's okay going a different route at 4. Maybe you wind up looking at Ekwonu at 4, or you look at Hamilton or Sauce Gardner or something like that, and then you decide to go with your edge rusher at 10. Or Thibodeaux is that elite prospect, and you wind up taking him, and you just forget about it, and then just stop listening to me. That's what's going to wind up happening. I'm probably scaring people for no reason. I think I'm just delirious. That's probably what it is. I don't know. Guys, let me know what you think down below in the comments. Who were your favorite risers? Who were your favorite fallers? Who'd you like? What was your biggest story out of today's combine? Let me know in the comments down below. And as always, go Jets. J-E-T-S-J!